Hello, everybody on the live stream. Bob is back.
Hello, I'm back again.
Phew. So, Winter Chill was kind of underwhelming then.
Yeah, I mean, in comparison to last year.
Yeah.
It was, it was fun, but anytime you could be in a park is fun. I mean,
Yeah. I don't know if I could go and not ride anything. I'd be really, I couldn't have done that probably.
I actually like off-season events the most.
I
I
like
like,
off-season events when they're close, but I'm not going to be me driving 8 hours up there just to not ride anything.
well, that's the thing with me. Since I'm from Pittsburgh, like it's not like I'm making hotel arrangements and stuff. I just go to my parents for the weekend, and then for that day, I just drive out there for that day.
Hmm.
So it's not like I drove the whole way up there. But yeah, I agree. Like if I had to drive 8 hours and get a hotel or something, I probably wouldn't do it. Although I guess I do for East Coaster, so I mean it's not far away, but I still get a hotel since it's multiple days.
Yeah.
But I love that event a lot, mainly because of Knoebels.
Yeah. Ooh. Okay, I guess we're going to start here in a sec. Let me get my water. Okay, I'm back.
I'll go back. I don't know what, man, YouTube like sucks up so much processing power on my computer. It's ridiculous. Like if when I load up the live stream, all of a sudden like I hear all the fans just full blast.
Okay, so you ready? Let me test your
All
audio
right.
real quick. I'm just going to test it.
All right.
So just go whenever you're ready.
Testing 1 2 3. Testing 1 2 3. Talking. I'm gonna talk some more and more and more and more.
All
You
right.
get it, or should I keep
That's fine.
talking? All right. Testing 1 2 3. Testing 1 2 3. Talking. I'm gonna talk some more and more and more and more.
Sounds good. Hopefully I don't end up coughing during the podcast. Cause
What was that?
testing the audio, which I will be hopefully editing earlier tomorrow. I don't know what I'm talking about. Bye. uh, testing the audio. Okay.
What's that? We need to type up. What is that thing that uses the lazy dog? Oh man.
What? Late?
Ah, this is gonna drive me nuts if I don't. Or no, the lazy fox, maybe? Yeah, the lazy fox jumped over the brown dog.
I don't know what you're talking about.
It's a it's something that's used to test. It uses every letter in the English language, I think. It's a panagram. A sentence that contains all of the letters of the alphabet. It is commonly used for touch typing practice, testing typewriters and computer keyboards.
Like lazy dog jumps over brown fox. Is that what it is?
No, it's actually the quick brown fox jumps over the lazy dog.
I see one that says lazy jock. There's another one too. The quick brown fox jumps over the lazy dog. We can try that.
No, there was some. The reason why it comes, I mean, it's usually used in like typing and like that kind of thing. But like there was a show that I watched that somebody just like randomly said it out of nowhere, and it was pretty hilarious, and like that just popped into my head as we're like trying to think of things to say.
Okay, so let's get started. Okay, here we go. Ready?
Sure.
It is time for another week of theme park talk. That's right, you're here on Coaster Talk, your source for everything roller coasters. And again, I'm joined by Bob.
Hello again.
You're just gonna
third week in a row, right?
Just keep coming on, keep coming on, keep coming on. It's okay. He's just the new host, so it'll always be just James and Bob.
I'm eventually gonna take over.
Eventually, that's been his plan. He like saw me at a park. He saw me at Busch Gardens and was like, I feel like he has a podcast. I'm gonna befriend him so I can take that podcast over. That was the only reason. Okay, so a lot to talk about this week. A lot of great things happening in the industry. Some things are interesting things happening. And Bob, you have some insight on that because you actually just went to Cedar Point, and there's we're going to talk about Cedar Point here in a little bit. But let's talk. Let's get more into that in attraction news. I don't like that at all. Let me redo that entire thing. I don't know what I'm talking about.
So actually, you know what? I just realized something. We need to either move Winter Chill Out to the front, or we need to merge it in with attraction news. Because when we start talking about Cedar Point, that's going to come up. You know what I mean? Like, yeah. I'll feel like while we're talking about Cedar Point, like, I'll feel like I can't really say anything about Winter Chill Out because I'm supposed to talk about that later. But
we could like leave it out. I don't know.
Yeah, or like we could just do it with the introduction. You know, you could just say, "I was back from Winter Chill Out." I'll say something for a couple of minutes or
here. Let me just. I'll just add it. Right here.
Actually, maybe we don't even need to put it on. I mean, could probably get mixed in with that because, I mean, no, not like there's anything else. But
well, we can just say like, now give your total, you know, you give us your full recap because it's gonna be more than just Forbidden Frontier, right? Because you didn't just do Forbidden Frontier when you were there. You didn't even do it at all, did you?
No, they talked about it, but nothing really more than. The only thing they told us that I didn't hear before was it's more like a choose your own adventure book.
And that was talked about too.
Yeah, that's really it. They didn't. I mean, nothing. I did ask the question. I found out that parts of the Shoot the Rapids ride is being reused for it, like the building and the structures and stuff like that.
Okay, yeah, we'll talk about that in this then. You talk about that. Yeah.
Maybe we should put Winter Chill Out at the front of Cedar Point. That way I could do that and then still mix in, and it doesn't seem weird. Because like we could get the Forbidden Frontier and then I could say, yeah, when I was at Winter Chill Out, Like that feels more
I feel
natural.
like you could say I was at Winter Chill Out at this point, and then you can talk about it, and then you can kind of go into the recap, and then we can go into Coaster Grace. I feel like that would flow better. Like we talk about it, and at this point, since you're going to be talking about it in a second anyway, you can already be like, yeah, I was at Winter Chill Out at Cedar Point this past weekend, and this happened, and this happened, and this happened. Speaking of Winter Chill Out, and then you can give your recap, or I can be like, okay, Bob, you're talking about Winter Chill Out, now give us your full and total recap of that, or whatever. I feel like I have flow.
If you say so. I don't know. It feels backwards to me, but
I don't think
you're the boss.
I don't feel like starting it off would work as well. I don't know. I just don't feel like, because it's about attraction news. So if all of a sudden I'm like, we're talking about Carolyn's
That's the thing.
news,
Like
and then
I feel like that
now
fits
going
better
to-
in introduction. Just like when we say hi, yeah, you just say hey. You were at Winter Chill Out.
Yeah, but I always start off with attraction news.
Just
So
say a
that'd
couple
be
things. Well, it's not really a segment though. It's just I was at because there's really not much to say about Winter Chill Out as a whole.
And then just tie it in with Cedar. I don't. I don't know. That's where I'm at. I'm like tying in.
All right.
I feel like it would work like that too.
I don't know. It'll flow. We'll figure out when we start talking.
You said Pam's watching.
She couldn't.
If she was, I was gonna be like, say your opinion.
She said she was gonna try to catch some of it, but.
Okay, let's go back into this then. Let me turn my phone, make sure it's off. I don't want that buzzing. Okay, it's off. Perfect. I know, I was kind of disappointed in the audience for saying that the independent parks weren't as good as chains. I'm like, come on, guys.
Yeah.
Don't fall under the corporate spell. Okay. Here we go. 17 days, Bob. 17 days until me and you will be riding Apollo's Chariot at Busch Gardens for Pass Holder Preview Day. It seems so close, but yet so far away. I wish we were back. But yes, welcome to Coaster Talk, your source for everything roller coasters. Like I said, I'm joined by Bob again.
Hello again.
It's
Glad
like
to be back.
taking over.
Third time in a row.
Taking over the show, Bob.
Yep, that's my plan.
The new face of Coaster Talk will just be Bob. That'll be the new logo. So yeah, 17 days. I don't know why that seems so far, but also so close. I can't decide whether or not that seems like it's here or not.
Yeah, it's I don't know. I'm so everything that's happened in the last month, man. I'm just so like mixed up with everything. Like, losing coasters, announcements of coasters. I don't know what to feel anymore. My heart's just been like thrown all around.
Yeah, especially as in Virginia.
Yeah, but it's exciting that it's coming, and I get to get back on a roller coaster again.
Oh, man, yeah. Apollo's Chariot, I'm so excited to climb aboard that ride. That right now is like my most anticipated ride ever. I don't know why I'm anticipating Apollo's Chariot so much. I've ridden it over like 300 times now. I think I'm at like 326. So I definitely want to get my ride count up this year on that ride a lot. I only got like 20 or 30 rides last year, but the years before I went to Busch Gardens much more than I did this past year. So I don't know. I'm really looking forward to climbing back on that ride. And
it's all about the new paint job.
Yeah, that looks so good. I'm so glad. Pam got her wish.
She did.
If you don't
she
know,
did get her wish.
Everyone that's listening, Pam, our good friend, asked actually at the winter event, Jeepers It's Winter. She asked the Busch Gardens people if they would give Apollo's Chariot a paint job, and they're like, "Does it really need it?" And she's like, "Yeah, it needs it bad." And they're like, "We're going to talk to Larry Giles, who's the head engineering at Busch Gardens, and maybe it seems that they got on it. So maybe at Pam's request, or maybe they were already planning it, and who knows? It doesn't matter. She got her wish. And,
we'll let Pam believe that she.
Yeah, exactly. We'll let her believe that. So a lot of things happening in the amusement industry this week now. So let's talk about that in attraction news. I don't know. She might have gotten her wish.
Yeah, I don't know. I forgot that she had actually asked that.
Yeah, I watched the interview because I did a recap for Ace on that event, and I watched like the full recap of, because I took a lot of, remember I took the videos. Yeah, and she was like, "Is Apollo's Chariot gonna get a paint job?" And they're like, does it need it? She's like, "Yeah, badly." And they're like, "Oh, is it that noticeable?" And she's like, "Yeah." And they're like, "Oh, we'll get Larry Giles on it. 1-800 Larry Giles."
Hold on, I'm gonna go get a drink real quick.
Okay. Ooh. Ready to get back on it.
Yep. I don't know a whole lot about Universal, so.
Yeah, neither do I. I've never been, never really.
I actually really like. I really don't. I really didn't read much about Hagrid's.
No, there's not much. I'll be kind of reading it all for you. Did you see
It
it's
is
begun testing?
right?
Did you
What's
see
that?
It's begun testing. Did you see that?
Yeah, I saw that. It is an Intamin, right?
Yes. It has a spike.
And a motorbike.
Motorbike that has a spike. Okay.
Spike's a new thing. All right, go for it whenever you're ready.
I already started.
Oh, what?
It's okay.
Oh, I'm sorry.
So Universal Orlando Resort has been, we've been looking at this coaster for a while. This Harry Potter coaster, that's the Harry Potter coaster. We knew it was going to have the motorbike, and a lot of people assumed it was going to be named after Hagrid. But they released the name this week, and they released the date that it's going to be opening, and it probably is one of the worst names of all time. Hagrid's Magical Creatures Motorbike Adventure. That's like a tongue twister. It's very, very long. I definitely think people are going to shorten it. I don't know if it's going to be called Hagrid's or, Motorbike Adventure or what, but definitely I don't think people are going to be saying that every time they want to go to Universal. Hey, let's go ride Hagrid's Magical Creatures Motorbike Adventure real quick. That's definitely a tongue twister, but the opening date for this coaster is June 13th, and the park said that some of the Wizarding World's rarest magical creatures will be seen throughout the ride, and as we already know, the park has said that the ride will be one of the most highly themed coaster experiences that Universal's ever created. So this is going to be a fantastic ride, and if I had to guess, this is just based off footage and stuff we've seen, I think the spike is the tallest point of the ride, and that looks to be maybe good 115 feet tall, and then I'm guessing the top speed will be in the mid-50s, is just based on what we've seen and the testing footage that we saw, because this ride has begun testing, and that's via Midway Mayhem. If you go on their channel, you can see that the ride has begun testing. So I'm really excited for this ride. I think it's going to be one of the better Universal rides, and especially I think it looks to be a good replacement of Dueling Dragons. Now, a lot of people are like, no, give me Dueling Dragons any day, man. Give me Dueling Dragons any day. And I'm like, yeah, I agree. Dueling Dragons definitely looks like, out of the two, the better ride. And I know that people are going to miss Dueling Dragons. I know. But looking at what they're trying to do here, they're trying to create, they've said, a family attraction, but they also want to make it thrilling. So they're going to have that vertical spike. They're going to have the launch. So it's not going to be like a boring, obviously not a boring coaster. I think it is a solemn replacement for Dueling Dragons, although I would take Dueling Dragons any day as well. I think it looks like a fit replacement, and if it's themed as much as it seems to be, and I mean they've said it's going to be, then we're definitely in for a treat.
I'm just excited about Intamin.
Yeah.
Anytime we get another Intamin in the United States, I'm happy. I really, honestly, I knew this was going on, and I've heard about it here and there, but I haven't really stayed on top of it. I don't know why. I don't really for some reason, I don't get drawn to the information about Disney and Universal. And it's not that I dislike them. It's just, I don't know. Maybe I'm in the wrong channels, or I don't know, but I haven't really followed too much about this. But I think I did see the testing video, and it does look interesting where there's like a sidecar on a motorbike, which is going to be, if it's how it looks like it's going to be, this is going to be an interesting dynamic in the loading station, because if you thought Skyrush was bad on who's sitting on the wing seat, who's sitting in the middle, now it's who's going to ride the motorcycle and who's going to sit on the bench. I don't know. I can see there being that. Wait, you go ahead and I'll ride after you, and then throwing off the line. And I don't know. It'll be interesting to see.
Capacity on this ride's going to be really weird.
Yeah, it doesn't. I would expect something on the lower speed scale of like 50 miles an hour, like you said, because we haven't seen any kind of motorbike or steeplechase type harnesses go very fast, and I would suspect that there's a reason for that. Although we don't know, maybe we're just inching our way up there. I'm sure there was once a day when somebody said, "What 300-foot tall coaster? Yeah, that's never gonna happen." But yeah, it should be interesting. And there's a spike, which seems to be the latest trend.
Yeah, I know. What is going on with that? It seems like every park now. It seems like Intamin in general is like trying to put that on a lot of their coasters now. I mean, that's two right now that we know of. In the next year or so that are going to be.
And
the Busch Gardens one's opening 2020.
The coaster we were talking about last week too. Not in
Fury. Yeah, Fury.
Yeah,
that's
Fury.
Gerstlauer.
Yeah, Gerstlauer. Looks like there's a spike there.
Yeah, very interesting. Very interesting that all these rides seem to be wanting to, or all these manufacturers are wanting to put this on their coaster. I don't know, but the park is going to be releasing more information about this ride, and I'm assuming that'll be including stats, including maybe like the name of the the trains, or maybe not the name of the trains, but maybe a full detailed look at the trains. I don't know exactly what they're going to be releasing, but they have said that they're going to be releasing one in March. And you think this is a really strange release for them because they didn't really talk about it, and all of a sudden they just released it. I thought that was really weird. Like, why is Universal holding? They held back really late. I mean, it's already 2019, and this is opening in June, and they held back this late in February, almost March, to tell us about this ride. I mean, this is a pretty big ride for them. It's a little strange that they waited so long to tell us about this because I'm sure they knew all this before. I
think the thing with Universal and Disney. There's a very different dynamic there. If you're going to be announcing, if you're Universal and you're Disney, the majority of the people that are coming to visit you are coming on vacation, a long vacation. And it's often not something that's done every year. And I think in the case of Universal and Disney, I think that when they make an announcement, it has the potential of dropping their attendance to an extent. So say, for instance, you're thinking, hey, I think maybe in January, we're going to go visit Universal. We're going to go on vacation and visit Universal. And then in December, they announce this new ride. You haven't made your reservations yet, and you know it's not going to open until June. Oh, well, let's wait. And the repercussions of that might be noticeable to them, where attendance actually drops in those slower months where they want people anyway. Yeah, so I think that might be the dynamic where when you have like the Cedar Fair parks, the Six Flags parks, they're trying to sell season passes in their off season. They're trying to get people hyped up because you can't go visit them in January, February. Like, that's not an option. So they're not losing the business by increasing your anticipation of that ride. They're only building their business when it comes, because
that's
now
the reason that parks try to open usually their rides in early spring when the park opens as well.
Right, because they want this new draw to be there, it's just a different dynamic with the resort parks, like Universal and Disney. Mm-hmm. So I think that probably has something to do with why they don't really go into too much detail, because they don't want to shoot themselves in the foot for the current winter season.
Yeah, I can definitely understand that point of view, but still, I think it's a little strange. I mean, people are seeing it, people are already talking about it, people are speculating it. It's a little strange to see that being done. Like, you see the ride being built, you see fences being put up, and they just are like, yep, it's not here. Like they pretend like it's not even happening. It's just funny. But I'm more anticipating the Jurassic Park coaster. That looks phenomenal. I know we've talked about that before on here on the Coaster Talk podcast, but I think that looks phenomenal. I think that's going to be a much bigger scale coaster than this Hagrid Magical Creatures Motorbike Adventure. I believe this will be a much bigger scale Intamin. I believe it's going to be Intamin, probably, most likely a launch Intamin. I'm looking forward to seeing that. and full colors when that's released, and when that's at least when people start speculating, because they already have fences up, but they really haven't started construction, or we haven't seen much of what's going on there. But some people speculate it'll be very similar to Terran at Phantasialand. So if that's the case, then I think we're in store for something great there. But Carowinds surprisingly closed Rip Roaring Rapids because it's made its way off the park map. It's no longer on the park map. This was the very last water ride in the park. So is Carowinds going to look to add a new water ride, or are they going to leave this park in a drought, so to speak, quote unquote, a drought? Let's put some quotes around that. I thought I was clever there. So it's very interesting to me because Knott's Berry Farm did this as well with their Calico River Rapids ride a couple of months ago as well, and they have reopened their Calico River Rapids ride with a new theme and a new statues and such. Because if they don't reopen this is going to leave a humongous green spot in between Fury and in between that big theater there that they have there. So I'm very, very concerned on what's going on here, because Carowinds needs, I think, a water ride. I think every park, even if I know they have that huge water park in the back, but that's not always going to be open, and that's not always something that people are looking forward to going to. I mean, not everyone goes to a dry park and goes, let's go in a water park. A lot of times you just want to get in a water ride and then go ride a coaster or something. So I feel like if they do close this off, down the road they're going to have to rebuild a water ride. So is this going to be a revamp of this water ride? Are they going to, like I said, retheme it like they did Calico River Rapids? Or is this going to be a close it off, build another water ride, or even build something else there, and then sooner or later they're going to, I think, see that they need a new water ride? So I don't know what's going on there.
So this is kind of an interesting thing that, over the years there's been this kind of problem that has developed with parks that have huge water parks. You have your water park destination, and then you have these other water rides that aren't part of the water park. And in many cases, they're on different sides of the park. And you can't wear your swimsuit through the park. So you have this issue where a lot of people go, well, we just spent all this time at the water park. I don't feel like getting wet again. It's just kind of like a logistics issue. I mean, King's Dominion is a great example of that, where the log flume and the rapids ride are, they could not be further apart from each other they're together, but they could not be farther away from the water park. And I think that there's kind of this like separation in people's minds now, where you don't, people more so, since there is an option to go to a water park now, they don't feel like getting wet as much. Only on super hot days, which might be, that might be a developing thing. But I think in some cases, we might start seeing some water rides close and then other ones open in a more convenient location. Personally, I think that this might be in anticipation for Forbidden Frontier taking off, and this might be an area for the Carowinds version of that theme. Because Cedar Fair has said they want family attractions, and maybe that's it. I don't know. It's hard to say. Do you know anything? Who is it that made Rip Roaring Rapids? Do you know who the manufacturer was?
Not 100% who that was. No.
Just kind of wondering what its anticipation, or what its relation to Shoot the Rapids is.
I'm not 100% sure who it is now, but again, I don't know. Could we be seeing a potential retheme? I don't know if that's in the question or not. I think I had not ridden Rip Roaring Rapids. I've been there many times. I've walked past it. I really had no interest in riding that ride, so I don't know 100% like how the ride experience flows, what the ride experience is. Are there any tunnels? Are there any animatronics or anything like that? Because I know King's Dominion has animatronics. They don't really work, but they do have them there. So is this going to be a close off and retheme? But in a way, when Knott's Berry Farm did that with Calico River Rapids, they announced it. They said we were doing a retheme. And this is all of a sudden not even mentioned that they're going to close it. They just don't even have it on the map. It's a little strange. A little strange of a thing to do there.
Yeah, I really don't have any expectation that Rip Roaring Rapids is coming back in any way, shape, or form. I just anticipate that it's going to be closing. And my big question is so far I haven't pulled it up yet, but if it's an Intamin,
Yeah.
that's even a bigger reason for Cedar Fair to wash their hands of it because of the issues that arose with Shoot the Rapids at Cedar Point, which most people I think feel that that's the point where Cedar Fair said we're done with Intamin.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know. Unfortunately, there's no RCDB equivalent for flat rides and water rides, or I would have this information for you right away. But yeah, I'd suspect that maybe it's an Intamin. Do not quote me on that. I don't know that. But in any case, I mean, this just feels like the new Cedar Fair. We're done with it. The heck with it. Close it. Done.
Not even mention it.
Yeah, they don't seem to want to give last rides on anything anymore. I don't know what the reasoning is for that, but the fact that this wasn't like this wasn't really announced. This was a quiet thing. That makes me believe it's done.
Yeah, that's the big.
They would
push.
if they were keeping it or bringing it back, they would want to make sure people know that, so they don't take the hit. If they're going to take the hit, whatever. Let's try to make it as quiet as possible. But yeah, that's my feeling. I don't think it's coming back. I really do think that there is the potential that area will be used for a family attraction, as they call it.
And the new family attraction that they're going to be bringing, Cedar Fair is trying to bring back, or they say in their financial report, which we talked about a couple weeks ago. Yeah, they're trying to bring some more family attractions. That may be. I still think that eventually they're going to attempt to get a new water ride, or will get a new water ride, because I feel like that's a big gap in a park's lineup. I mean, not to have any water rides at a park. I don't know if any park in the area on the East Coast. I mean, think of every major park really has some sort of water ride.
Kennywood. Well, no, you're right.
Yeah,
Kennywood
they have Pittsburgh Plunge. Yeah.
Oh yeah, that's it. Wow. Yeah, I missed the vote on that one. Wow. Yeah.
Even Cedar Point has their Rapids ride still.
I think that there's definitely the potential that they'll put another water ride in, like I said, at a more convenient location.
Yes, more convenient.
Closer proximity to the water park. I mean, the ideal thing, I forget where it was that did this. They had a water ride, and I think maybe more than one place does this, where the water ride is actually on the border of the water park and the dry park. Yeah. There's actually two separate queues. So you can actually queue in from the dry park or the water park. And in that case, you can wear either your swimsuit or your street clothes, depending on which side you're coming in from. Mm-hmm. And then you exit back out to that side of the park. I think that might be, where things go, because that will keep water attractions more active, because you can access it while wearing your swimsuit for the people that don't like getting their street clothes wet.
I think Worlds of Fun and Oceans of Fun may do that similar, like the log flume entrance in the dry park and the water park. I'm not 100% sure on that, but I believe Worlds of Fun and Oceans of Fun in Missouri might do that similar process where they have two separate queues that open up to the log flumes. So yeah, that's not a bad idea. I definitely think that's too big of a gap in a parks lineup not to bring back the Rapids and the log flume. Cedar Point has their rides. They have a water ride there as well. Kings Island has a log flume in their kids area. I mean, every park I can think of has a water ride, has some sort of water ride in the dry park. So that's something that I think Carowinds needs to fill up soon. But speaking of another Cedar Fair park, and this is kind of a big deal in a way, but in a way it's not. Cedar Point has released a little bit more details on Forbidden Frontier. They really didn't give us much, though. They just kind of described it, but they kind of gave a really lackluster idea of the descriptions. So they said you're invited to explore an island previously closed out to visitors, but in a way it has loose connections to Frontier Town. It's a live action as it's happening story. Only instead of sitting back and watching, which you can if you want to, you can actually be in the story. And it doesn't matter what time of day you visit. Something is always happening, and you're always welcome to see it. And they go on to say that you may be asked to roll up your sleeves and help farm the land, or perhaps go on a secret mission, delivering special messages or deciphering a cryptic puzzle. You may also run into goats, chickens, and even an emu, or better yet, dig for that rumored treasure. So really, that doesn't tell us much. I guess you're going to be rolling up your sleeves and helping farm. Doesn't give us much on what's going on, but it seems very similar to Ghost Town Live at Knott's Berry Farm, which just it seems very similar to that, where you're going to be like kind of there's going to be actors, and you might be asked to join in, almost like you're one of the town folk, and they're going to say, "Hey, come help me farm" or whatever, and you're going to go help them farm, and then there'll be like a shootout or something, and you'll join in. I think along those lines.
This weekend I was at Winter Chill Out, and this was mentioned. Knott's Berry Farm was actually mentioned by the person that was presenting the information to us about Forbidden Frontier. They specifically stated that it is. I forget the wording they used, but they made it seem like there's a loose connection to Ghost Town Live.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
But it's not the same. There's some things about it that are very different.
Well, probably Ghost Town Live was more just like in that one little area. I feel like this is gonna be a much larger area. It's gonna be almost like its own island. I mean, that's what it's called on Adventure Island. I feel like it's gonna be on a much larger scale. Like they'll be separate. I feel like there's gonna be like in one area of the island there'll be like a shootout going on. One island area you'd just be helping farm or whatever. It's very strange. I feel like it's going to be just live actors, almost like I don't know.
It's definitely actors.
Yeah, live actors,
the
and
characters
I feel like
are there.
It's going to be very strange.
Actually, I'm drawing a blank. I can't remember their names. Chess Watkins and the other two from Still Vengeance.
Oh yeah.
They are actually going to be in the part of this town. And there'll definitely be like specific characters, and you will interact with them or you won't interact with them, and your choices to interact with them or not interact with them will change the rest of your experience there.
My question is it going to be scripted? Like, is it going to be scripted, or are the characters going to have like certain things they're allowed to do and not allowed to do, or is it just going to happen whenever they want? Or is there like they can have a specific, like, you can either, if they do this, you have the shootout here, or if not, are you're gonna just let them farm, or here you're just gonna let them have a beer, or at the bar or the county bar or whatever. What are they gonna be allowed to do? What are they not gonna be allowed to do? Is it gonna be scripted? Is there gonna be some sort of script? Like, is it all gonna be like one of those books you used to read as a kid, where you read it and it's like, go to page 163 if you
that's exactly what they compared it to.
Yeah,
that's exactly what they said.
That's exactly what I'm thinking. I don't know. But again, so they're going to have like certain events that they're allowed to do and aren't allowed to do. It's not going to be like the actors get to choose what happens. They're just going to be like, okay, these people aren't talking to me. Okay, so I'm going to do this now. I'm going to invite them over here, and we're going to do this, or what?
My impression of it is that there's probably strict character guidelines, but it's not actually scripted. I think that there's going to be a very large amount of interaction and freedom, so that even the characters themselves, the actors themselves, can make it unique. But they have a specific skeleton of a direction that they have to go with all that.
Yeah, that's really interesting. My theory is still, I think they might do something like a Harry Potter land at Universal, where they have like the wands and like they unlock a door or something. I feel like you might walk past something and something might unlock, or a door might open.
So there was actually something that actually came up. Somebody asked the question, and they were very cryptic about this, but somebody asked the question of, how will the actors know what I've done? And the response was the actors have no the town and like everything inside the park has no idea what you've done. And it kind of alluded to the fact that there is nothing like that. There's nothing that will keep track of what's going on, like the like a bracelet or a wand or something like that. It's, I mean, what I'm gathering, it's just like, maybe it's like a hidden passageway where you go talk to this actor and they say, oh, well, you want this, so why don't you look over there? And they point out something that you wouldn't have seen otherwise. Or they direct you in a different way, or, it's things like that.
See, I think it'd be cool if you like walk past like a cellar or something and the cellar door like opened up. That would be really awesome. And you could like go in there and there's a guy in there and he's like, oh, you got to get the treasure and it's over here or whatever, something like that. I think that'd be really cool. Like somehow there's like a motion sensor and it like opens up the door if you walk past
and
it.
that might be, that might be some of it. It's very cryptic. They don't want, and that was weird. Like Winter Chill Out, they kind of want to like announce all this stuff. They wouldn't even take us back to the land. They didn't show us anything. They didn't really tell us anything. Other than a few questions. They did the press release the day before Winter Chill Out. So there wasn't really anything shared there, which was kind of weird. Like they're really like keeping a lot of this secret. And it was even in the one presentation, Tony Clark was saying how he's like, usually he's so excited to tell people about this, and this is like one of the hardest things he's ever had to deal with because he can't say anything really about this.
It's like really strange. We barely know anything about this.
Yeah,
it's really weird. With kind of like Universal, they're waiting. I mean, this is opening this year, and they're like not really telling us anything. It's kind of like
I think in the case with this I think this is just such a dynamic attraction that they don't want to give away the secrets.
I don't even know. I don't even know if I'd classify this as an attraction. It's more like a show almost. It's not a show.
No. It's not an attraction. It's an attraction. There are definitely things you do. There's boats there that you ride through. There's different. This is an attraction.
It's not an attraction in a sense of like it's not a ride.
It is not a ride. It is an attraction though. And I'll be honest with you. I'm excited to see it.
I am too. Yeah, I'm not going to Cedar Point in 2019, but I'm looking forward to doing it in 2020.
They did say that you could go there once a day, every day this year, and every single time you go there, it is a completely different experience. You will not have the same experience.
I feel like that might bite them in the butt though, because they said that. I mean, a very different situation, but in a way, when you say that in Verbolten to Busch Gardens, you're like, it's going to be a different thing every time. You sometimes do get the same thing. I feel like that's going to come back and bite them in the butt. Like someone's going to go and be like, well, I just did the exact same thing twice, and I got the same story, or I got the same turnout. I still got the shootout or whatever. I don't know. Like I believe that there's definitely going to be like way more variables than just 3, like on Verbolten. But
yeah, unless
eventually there's going to be someone that goes and they're going to do the same, or not the same thing, but they're going to end up somehow getting the same storyline.
What if they change the parameters every few days? I mean, these are things that are highly plausible.
Well, what do you mean by that though? Like they change
everything, like the script, the skeleton script.
Okay.
Just like for the next few weeks we're going to be directing people this way, or then like there are things that you can do.
Yeah, but what if you go on the same day and somehow you get the same type of experience? Well, Michael, is it going to be on a larger scale? Like, is it going to be a huge group of people and they're all going to be? I don't know if they're going to like limit it to like, here's a group of 20. Let's put them all together and they go into Forbidden.
That's another
thing. Like,
there's
just going to be me, you, and like if it was just me and you and my mom, and are we all 3 going to be able to just go and get on our own little adventure, or is it going to be a group adventure, like 20 of us, and we all do the same thing? That's where it's going to change. Yeah, I think what's going to change. I think that really is going to what determines how this ride turns out. I think having our own individual adventure. It'd be easier. It'd be more fun, but I think it'd be easier for the park to have the 20 groups of 20. They could probably put more people in, and they could just have faster people because there's not just people doing whatever they want. It's more of a group of 20. You're being directed and told where to go, but then in a way, I think that would take away from the experience. So
yeah, I kind of tend to lean towards it not being group.
Yeah, because I think it'd be really awesome. Like you go in and you literally get to walk around the town by yourself. You and your group, your own like 3 or 4 people. You get to walk over and go in, and maybe there's like I have a feeling it's going to be like almost like an old western town. I feel like they're going to have at least like one little area like an old western town, and there'll be like a bar, a saloon. There'll be like a bank, and you get to go in there and explore.
Well,
and maybe
the entire island is an extension of Frontierland.
Exactly. So it'll be similar to like the Frontier, town. So
and the connection will be behind the Sky Coaster. What is it, Professor Delbert something?
Is it going to be? Is it going to be something like Dinosaurs Alive, where you're like almost like ticketed in, or is it going to be just walk right in whenever you want?
Well, I don't know if there's going to be any kind of queue. There is no charge.
I know there's no charge, but is it going to be ticketed in? Like Dinosaurs Alive was free with the season pass. I know, but that's same thing, same concept. It's free. Is it going to be like you scan like your pass and you get in, or you scan your ticket that from that day and you just get in? Is it going to be queued at all, or is it just going to be you walking?
The one thing they did mention. I had asked. I was curious because we know that's the location of the Shoot the Rapids ride. And some of the decorations kind of looked like, oh, maybe they're reusing that. So I did ask that question, and they said that basically it is the same structure. It's not going to look the same, of course. It's not a ride, so none of the ride is actually used. But they did mention that the queue was being reused, but they didn't say how. So I don't know if it's going to be a queued attraction.
Keep any of the dinosaurs. That'd be kind of funny.
Somebody also asked how many people were able to be on the island, and they said that number. They said they don't have an answer for that because that number has changed so many times. But they did say that.
Cover up.
Well,
yeah, just don't want to say.
They did say that the dynamics of being able to. For you to basically jump from one section to another section on your own actually increases the capacity of the island because you don't have a standard path that gets backed up. Mm-hmm. But yeah, I don't know how that's going to work. I don't know. It'll be interesting to see.
It's going to be a really interesting concept. But Bob, you were just as we talked about and people have heard, you were just at the event Cedar Point held called Winter Chill Out. Tell us a little bit more about what you did there.
Yeah, so this year was an interesting change from last year. I was there last year as well. Last year was pretty neat because we got to see Still Vengeance. I actually have pictures of me touching Still Vengeance, which was kind of cool from the infield. Last year we went through a group. You met with your group, and you had a tour guide with each group that took you through to everything. They completely guided you through the tour. This year, it was basically you go in and you're part of the group. You arrived at your designated time, and you had a designated time for your main presentation and your lunch. But aside from that, they had stations set up, and you basically could go to any station that you wanted to go to at your will. And then at that station, you could experience whatever was there. There were some pretty neat things that were there. I don't really know. In some ways, I liked last year a lot better because this year we didn't really get to see any ride systems aside from being in the maintenance area where they do the maintenance on the trains and stuff like that. We didn't actually get to see any of, actually walk to Millennium Force or Still Vengeance or Maverick and actually see any of the guts on the ride itself. I missed that aspect of it. And there were also some other things. This year I went with my niece and my sister. That was actually part of my Christmas gifts to them. And they both enjoyed it. They loved it. But my sister and I were talking, and it was kind of like we really liked the ability of they literally let you in the park. You could walk around the park all you wanted. There were certain areas that were barricaded off, but you could walk around the park just, whatever you wanted, browse, whatever. But the thing that was the thing that I missed is some of the guidance. For instance, when we went into the Intamin maintenance shop, I carried on a long conversation with one of the maintenance guys because that's my interest. I know what to ask. and I probably talked to him for close to 10 minutes, while my sister and my niece really didn't do anything. But then when we went into the costume shop, neither one of us knew what to ask. So we kind of missed the guidance. It's kind of nice that, you know, when somebody's there telling you stuff, you can learn even though you don't know what to ask. They did when we went through Linen Services, where they do all the laundry for everything, all of the Cedar Point properties. They actually took us on a tour through that, and they explained everything to us proactively, which was really helpful. So I mean, it was a different experience. It was fun. But there was nothing new reported this year. Like usually with Winter Chill Out, they give you more information, new information. And this year they announced absolutely everything that we learned the week before, which it kind of took away from some of it. Not that it was a bad event because of that, but it was kind of, cool. But yeah, I mean, it was just a decent event as normal. Just a couple things I missed, but a couple advantages. So maybe if they do a hybrid next year of the roaming the park combined with guidance, I think that would be
they might
perfect.
be getting a new coaster next year as well.
Yeah, we'll see.
It's the big rumor.
I don't know.
We haven't seen
I don't know. I don't have much hope for that. I don't think it's going to happen.
It's a big 150. I don't know. I feel like they might be.
Yeah, but that's not. Parks don't usually get coasters for that.
I don't know. I feel Cedar Point might. Cedar Point. I don't know, but let's move on to the next event here. We're going to talk about, or next segment, excuse me. We're going to talk about some cool stories we have to share about us marathoning some coasters. We're going to talk about that in Coaster Craze. The cool stories. They're not just stories, they're cool stories.
Cool stories.
Okay, you ready to go back into it?
Yep.
So this week we are talking about some stories we have to share with all of you, and we're going to talk about us marathoning some coasters. So this is just kind of a fun, interactive topic between me and Bob. We're just going to kind of bounce off ideas that or stories that we've had marathoning coasters. But first and foremost, we're going to start off with the big marathons that we've had, and then we'll kind of spurt off from there. So the biggest marathon I've done was actually an official ERT event. So this is not just me staying on the coaster a little longer than I should have. This is an actual ERT event. This is an ACE event, Riding of the Bull. And I rode El Toro over 30 times. I believe it was 32 to be exact. And I rode it actually 16 times in a row without getting off. But, I also went back went through the queue and went back, and then I rode it around 32 times. That was with my good friend Daniel, who's been on the show before and is a good friend of mine. That was one of the greatest marathons I've ever had. That whole day was fantastic. We'd gotten over 3 or 4 rides on Nitro, which is the weakest B&M hypercoaster to ever exist. Me and my New Jersey friends always go back and forth on that one. They think it's an elite hyper, and I'm like, God, no. I mean, I don't know, Bob. You haven't been a Great Adventure in a long time. Do you remember Nitro at all?
No, I haven't rode Nitro.
Oh, you haven't? Okay. Weak hyper. It's a very weak hyper. Has barely any airtime. That whole park is kind of overrated, in my opinion. Great Adventure has El Toro, which is fantastic. Kingda Ka is kind of Nitro's Green Lantern's pretty good. Bazaar's pretty good. And that's kind of it. I mean, that's kind of the lineup there.
Last time I was there, the standout attractions for me, both of them are gone. It was the Chiller and Rolling Thunder. Those were 2 of my favorite coasters.
Well, now you got El Toro. So I think El Toro is going to meet. I think El Toro is a good standout coaster for that park. But Kingda Ka was a little on the not on the rough side, but it was just vibrating. And the park was okay. But talking about marathon and coasters, that was my biggest marathon I've ever had. My largest, over 30 rides in El Toro. And Bob, what about you?
Well, I'm an old guy.
Just point that
relatively.
Out before we start, that's the first thing I need to point out.
as much as I love coasters, I don't think that I could ride one 30 times in a row. Maybe, I don't know. But my most memorable marathoning was actually Fury 325. I actually rode it 5 or 6 times without getting off. There was no line, and the ride operators actually let us stay on the ride for that many times. And I probably could have gone even longer on that, except I wanted to switch seats, so I had to go around. I think altogether total, I probably rode it more than a dozen times. It was phenomenal, and I was actually there on the during the eclipse, which was kind of a neat experience in itself. Which I think is probably part of the reason why the crowds were so small, because everybody Carowinds wasn't in the line of totality, so most of the people in the area drove down the couple hours to see the total eclipse.
Yeah.
I wanted to see the eclipse a little more than I could see it in Virginia, and I also wanted to go to Carowinds, so it worked out for me. Yeah. But that was kind of a neat experience too, like, looking in my glasses and just watching the eclipse every now and then, and just watching everybody look up to the sky, and hopefully nobody was blinded that day. But
I actually got to ride Fury when I went in it, and I'm not trying to show you up here, but I rode it 12 times in each row. So me and my friend and my other good friend Max and my good friend Alex, we were all there, and we rode it. We had fast pass, so we went to the back row, and then we went to the next row, and then we went to the next row, and then we went to the next row. A couple of times we kind of got stuck. So they how they choose the row for you. So they'd be like, go to row 3, and I'd be like, oh, we did row 3. Can we go to row 2? And they'd be like, no. And sometimes they'd be nice, and I'd be like, oh, we already did that. Can we go to the next row? And they'd be like, yeah, sure. It really depended on their mood that day. It was really because they changed the person who was doing the line midway through, and the next person that came was very lenient. The person before that was a little harder and stubborn. But sometimes we just kind of like, she'd say go to the back, and we'd be like, yeah, we're just gonna go the second to back actually. So we kind of. We just didn't really listen to her that much, but yeah, I mean that was fantastic as well. I love marathoning some rides though.
Yeah, my most frequent marathoning is done on Intimidator 305.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't think I've ever done more than 10 to 12 in a row. But I love, there's never a line. Yeah. Usually I wait my first ride, I wait for the front, and then I get off and I just hit whatever.
There's it's always the front, and there's like 6 or 7 people, and then the back and everything else is just nothing.
Yeah, the front it's such an amazing coaster, and that front is so spectacular. That's why you can go there and wait 20 minutes for the front seat, or you can walk right on any other ride.
I think the back is the best row. In all honesty, that's my favorite row on I-305.
I don't know.
Yeah, out of my rides, I definitely think the back is better. Me and my friends always go in the back. I like the front. I think the front, it has definitely like a better view and the first drop's better in the front, but the overall ride I think is much better in the back row. You have the more intensity. You get pulled over that first drop a lot more than you do in the front row. And that's, I mean, and again, not to brag, 234 rides in Intimidator 305. I think it's a little overrated, but so that might be part of me thinking the back's not is the better. I don't know. I've ridden the front a lot, but I definitely, whenever I go, I try to ride in the back more.
I think the thing about I-305 is the speed of the ride varies frequently up until the trim break on the first return hill. Mm-hmm. And that's why you always hear people complain about the trim break on I-305.
It's terrible.
But see, here's the thing. It's not
It is terrible.
There's a preset, but there's a preset amount of speed that you go over that. So if you're getting trimmed, that means like the first half of your ride was faster.
You always get trimmed. I've never not gotten trimmed though.
Oh, there's been quite a few times that I've not got trimmed.
I've never on the third airtime hill.
Yeah.
That's always trimmed.
Never. There are definitely times where I've ridden it trimmed
a lot, and it's never been trimmed. But okay, I don't know.
It just depends on how many people are on the train and how fast you complete that first portion of the ride. So if you're really flying up there, then it has to trim you to slow you to preset speed.
Maybe they don't trim as much, but I've never ever gotten a ride on that where I've at least felt a little bit of trimming. I don't know about never being trimmed on that.
It's definitely a varied degree, but there have been a couple times that I have not felt any trim on that whatsoever.
I don't know. Maybe you just didn't feel it. I don't know, because I don't know, but yeah, that trim sucks that hill will give you so much ejector if you didn't. That would literally be the end all be all of airtime hills, I think, if that ride didn't have the trims on that. I know the second airtime hill, like the big one right after the blackout turn, I don't know. I've ridden, like I said, I've ridden it 234 times exactly. And people try to tell me all the time it has ejector airtime on that airtime hill, and I never get ejector airtime. And I'm always on it, and I'm always next to my friends who, ride I-305 so hard. They're like, they think it's the greatest roller coaster ever. It's better than Fury, it's better than Steel Vengeance, blah, 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 blah. It's the greatest coaster of all time. And they're always like, when we're riding together, they're always like, you see that as ejector? I'm like, it doesn't have ejector. I'm riding right next to them at the same time, and I'm not getting ejector. I don't know what the heck that is. Maybe
I don't know. I'm usually seeing
the restraints are terrible on that ride too, so that might be because I'm a bigger guy than my friends.
Oh, see, I actually really kind of like those restraints. I mean, I'd rather just have a lap bar, but I don't mind those restraints at all. But the thing is I don't ride I-305 for airtime. Whether there's airtime there or not, that's not the reason to ride that. It's about pure, sheer speed. That's what makes that ride fun.
Yeah, and I agree, but I think people that try to tell me it's the greatest roller coaster of all time, pure sheer speed does not make a roller coaster the greatest roller coaster of all time.
It can. It depends on what you look for.
That ride is not the greatest roller coaster of all time. I can guarantee you that. I don't think there's a doubt in my mind. There's no question. If you look at the layout, it does literally nothing. It is the first drop is fantastic. The blackout turn is fantastic. And then the rest of the ride is just a bunch of crappy airtime hills and really snappy transitions that literally you do nothing in. I
love those transitions.
It's my number 8 ride. I mean, I love it, but it does nothing. I don't think a roller coaster that does nothing. I love the transition too, but a roller coaster that does that like 20 times does not deserve to be called the king of coasters and the greatest roller coaster to ever be built. I mean, that's ludicrous, because people are saying the variative elements. That's what or that the airtime or whatever you want to say. That ride doesn't do any of that. It literally just goes back and like back. You just
we can agree on one thing. That's not the greatest steel coaster.
It's not the greatest.
It's obviously Sky Rush.
No, that's definitely that's like number 16. I know one of my friends, Airtime Thrills on YouTube. If anyone wants to check him out, he doesn't even have Sky Rush in his top 150. He's crazy. I don't know where he's getting that from. It's a good coaster, but he not even in his top 150. He didn't like it that much.
That's by far my favorite steel. It was Fury 325 until I rode Sky Rush.
Fury's so much better than that. I can't even explain. Can't even explain. But that's okay.
Fury's great. It's a great coaster. We'll
let the polls decide, and I think almost every poll has Fury as the better steel coaster. It's okay, Bob.
That's just because people can't. Oh, my legs hurt. My legs hurt. My legs hurt.
Those restraints are god awful. They don't even lie.
I love the restraints. That's what makes the ride.
The restraints are terrible.
No, they're not. They're awesome.
Terrible.
They're glorious.
When you're thinking about the greatest roller coaster of all time, you have to say there's something that appeals to all people, and that does not appeal to the majority of anybody that rides that ride. Maybe you find it good, but I think when you're looking unbiasedly at the greatest roller coaster of all time, it has to appeal to all these factors: smoothness, intensity, airtime, comfortability. Definitely has to be a big factor, and I think Sky Rush X's out like double X. Like I've never, other than you, I've never heard anyone that loves them. I've heard people that are like, they're okay, they're fine, they don't really do much. But I think the majority, I'd say 75% of everyone that gets off that ride is going to go terrible. They're so bad that the Hershey Park employees, when I went, literally everyone complained about them. They had
because
to,
they get off
while we were sitting on
the
break run. While we were sitting on the brake run, they actually lifted them up a little bit because they're so bad. That's how bad the restraints are. No other roller coaster does. No other roller coaster, like on a B&M Hyper, they don't release it a little bit because it's comfortable. It doesn't matter. But if they have to literally release the restraints a little bit so you have some room in between the restraints and your legs, I think that kind of clarifies that those are not good restraints.
Yeah, I don't think so.
It's okay.
See, nobody judges the coaster based on the coaster. They just, oh, my legs hurt. My legs hurt. I can't feel my legs. I can't. That's whatever.
Part of the coaster. That's part of the coaster. It's part of the experience. If the experience is your legs hurt, then that's part of the ride experience.
That's right. Like people that try to tell me like
T-bars on it, probably the greatest steel coaster ever created.
All B&M, all the old B&M, like Ruggaroo. Ruggaroo is a good coaster. No, if I get off with a pounding headache, I don't like that coaster.
Rougarou is a great roller coaster. I had a Zen ride on that thing. It was me and my friend Thomas at nighttime, just me and him on the ride in the back row. Oh, that was fantastic. That was my favorite Floridas for a while because of that ride. Was great.
Such a headache-inducing ride.
Nah,
Painful for me. So see, your theory is back. See, well, let's flip it now. And
I'm a back row rider. I'm a back row rider completely.
It doesn't matter. I don't care where it is on Rougarou. My head just bounced like a ping pong ball.
No, I thought Rougarou was fantastic. But you know, that's our marathon stories have gotten a little out of whack. Out of whack there. We've gone to why I-305 isn't the greatest steel coaster, and then we went on to why Skyrush restraints suck, and
why Skyrush is the best coaster.
We might have to kick you off the show now because
no, I'm taking over. Remember,
you're taking over. He's the dictator. But yeah, those are our coaster stories. We kind of got out of whack there, but hope you guys enjoyed that segment. Now it's time to go to the break run. I think me and Bob both are a little disappointed in the audience as we asked you guys what was better, the independent parks or the chain parks, and looks like the chains actually might have won. So me and Bob are a little disappointed in both of you guys. But let's in the audience, let's go talk about that in the break run. Bob, you're off the show. I'm just kidding. Okay. So we got to make this quick. I don't have much time, but so let's just briefly go over this. We already talked about this last week, so you don't need to be like giving us your full flashback of your.
No, I know.
You don't have to be like, well, back in my day, the chains used to be small, and then
shut up.
and then Pizza Hut came around, and I used to work there.
You cannot tell me though that my Pizza Hut story does not fit Cedar Fair's current predicament.
It did, no, but I just
was that not right on point?
I don't have 20 minutes for you to go on about that. Okay, let's go. So we kind of talked about this all last week, so we're just going to quickly recap. We talked about independent parks or chains. So the independent parks, something like Kennywood, or even not actually Kennywood anymore. Kennywood's not independent, but when it used to be independent, Knoebels, Holiday World, parks like that, those are the independent parks. And me and Bob both agreed that those are the soul of the amusement industry. Without them, we don't know what the amusement industry would look like. We even said we don't know if there'd be an amusement industry without them, which if you look at the timeline of roller coasters, there wouldn't be, because independent parks were originally, there were no chain parks, and it was just independent parks, and then they started getting bought by chains and stuff. So if you look at history-wise, independent parks kind of dictate the timeline of roller coasters and theme parks. So without them, there would be no chains to even exist. But in terms of today, chains apparently people think chains are the better park system, I would say, because I don't know really what else to call this, a management system, how the parks are run. People believe that independent parks, the people that believe that independent parks are better, there's only 33 of you guys out there in the audience. That's 44% of the total vote. And then people that believe the chains are the better system to run your park through, 42 of you, and 56% of the vote. So me and Bob are actually in the minority here when saying that independent parks are the better system, at least in our audience on Instagram. I don't know. Maybe if we asked like the Facebook community, those seem to be like the older people are on Facebook. Maybe if we'd asked the Coaster Talk community on Facebook, maybe it would have gone more independent. I guess like most things, it really just depends on the audience that you ask.
Yeah, it always varies. I mean, you can everything's kind of corralled into your little clicks, and there's always the overall enthusiast echo chamber as well, and then the subdivisions of that echo chamber. But the only thing that I want to say again, I said it last year, just this year, everybody listening, please visit at least one independent park.
Yes, you have to.
Let's keep this soul alive. Let's support them as much as we can. Mm-hmm. I love chain parks too, but make sure we support those independent parks because they are crucial, because without them, even your chain parks will suffer.
Yes. And they break, a lot of times at least in the history, they were the ones that they just kept the amusement industry going. And then, the chains bought them, like parks like Kings Dominion, Kings Island. Those were all independent parks even back then. So really, if you look at the history, independent parks definitely are. But if you're looking, I guess, just saying modern terms, then yeah, obviously the chain parks, at least in terms of our viewers or our listeners on Instagram, they believe that chains are more significant. They do more. They impact the community more. So yeah, I mean, we talked about this last week. If you really want to hear me and Bob's full opinions on why independents are better, I'll go listen to last week's episode. And next week's weekly poll, which I'm sure we might have Bob right back on next week, is airtime or inversions. We're not me and Bob. We're gonna leave that out for next week because that's what we're gonna talk about next week. So we'll put up a poll on Instagram. So go check that out soon. So if you're listening to this, go see if it's on Instagram at the time of this recording. And we'll see you guys next week. You can say bye,
Yep.
Bob.
It was great to be on again. Hope everybody has a great week again.
Okay. So yeah.
Does that work?
Yeah.
You kind of caught me off guard. I was waiting for you to do a wrap up, and then I'm like,
Well,
wait.
actually, I need to do a little
wait.
bit more. So I need to do another wrap up. I usually say I need to say all the social media and stuff. So you're right.
See?
And my mom's like getting mad at me. We have to go. So,
All right.
but I need to do this real quick. It won't take long. The community more. I'll go listen to last week. Is airtime or inversions? We're not gonna meet because that's what we're gonna talk about next week. So we'll put up a poll on Instagram. So go check that out soon. So if you're listening to this, go see if it's on Instagram at the time of this recording. And we'll see you guys. One second.
All right.
You can say bye, Bobby. One sec, I'll be right back.
No problem.
Well, let's just end the live stream real quick, since we're just gonna do this real quick.
All right. Am I doing my wrap up again too?
Yeah, I'll do it.
Okay.